It's the sun. That is. It's the sun. Yeah. Apparently, it's seasonal. I haven't seen it before. Looking ahead to the Atleti or Real Madrid game, and I'm really looking forward to it now.
Yeah, it should be a good one.
I was looking forward to it, and then I went through the history of late goals and looked at some more of the stats. I'm like, wow, this is going to be fantastic. So if anyone can find 2 or more goals in the last 15 minutes anyway, I'm going to take that.
Have you seen who's ref?
I didn't
Would that
actually
come
look
out today?
I didn't look at the referee because I was looking at goals. Let's see if I can find it.
It must have been this morning. Wouldn't have been how long.
Oh,
Who is it? Is it that?
It's Turpin.
Polish bloke?
It's Turpin. Oh, no.
That is...
Honestly,
That's crap.
What's under 0.5 cards?
Who's the ref?
Clement Turpin. He's the worst referee in Europe.
Turpin. Well, nah, it's all right, I think.
No, he's terrible. He doesn't give anyone cards.
The main thing you've got against him, Scott, is that he doesn't bring your bets in.
Where's Marciniak? Marciniak is the best.
Let me go through the full list. Oh, yeah, we are. Michael Oliver in charge of Bayern. That's going to be decent. I can't believe they've put Turpin in charge of that.
Yeah, it's for good reason, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose they don't want to...
I'm not surprised, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go. Should we start?
Yeah, ready.
After the change and upheaval of the new format, we're back to more familiar surroundings with the Champions League round of 16. There are 8 ties for our panel of betting experts to pick apart, including 4 matchups that we've already seen in various competitions this season. The same nation matchups are new, as is the presence of clubs like Club Brugge and Aston Villa at this stage. We'll discuss how that affects the betting markets with 2 tips from our experts, as well as a regular pod treble. All that and more on today's show. Hello and welcome to the Football Betting Pod, powered by Betting Experts. I'm your host, Alan Jenkins, joined as ever by Betting Experts football editor Sam Ingram. How are you doing, Sam?
Hello, Dan. I'm okay. How are you and how's Scott? You're both sat in the dark up in Wales. What's going on?
We have shut out curtains to ensure that we don't have any sunlight whatsoever because our pale Welsh complexions couldn't handle it.
Yeah, my tan from my holiday is faded now, so my sun immunity's gone, and I've got my screen in the way of the window, so I'm sort of...
So you need.
Yeah, that works. It works fine.
Yeah. Also joining us on the show today, Daniele Piscella. How are we doing?
Oh, hello. Hi. Good morning. All good.
No pale complexions there.
No. That's the opposite.
All good. All right. Big week of Champions League football. Round of 16 is back. Some very interesting matches. We've had Daniele's rant on the format and the fact that some of them are from the same nation. But yeah, as I said in the intro, it is quite an interesting dynamic. Just very briefly before we get to the matches, Daniele, I know you've got opinions on this, but what do you think? How do you think the fact that we've seen some of these matches already in the Champions League this season, and the fact we've seen some of them in domestic leagues, we will still see some of them before the season's up. How do you think that is going to affect the Champions League round of 16? Because it's not something we've seen before.
No, yeah, we haven't seen it before, and normally the goal tally goes down in these knockout stages, so that could be an effect. But if you look at especially at the same nations games, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid was played as early as the 8th of February, 1-1, and yes, maybe it could be another tightly contested game, but also Bayern Leverkusen, Bayern Munich was played in 15th of February, 0-0, the most deceptive 0-0 probably ever, as Bayern Leverkusen dominated that game, XG over 2, hit the bar twice, and they are unbeaten in 6 games. Look, it's not usual that there are same nation ties, knockout ties. It only happened 25 times in the history of the Champions League, excluding the finals. Normally, the favorite, the big clubs, do advance. Real Madrid have got a good record against Atletico Madrid. They knocked them twice. It hasn't happened many times in the history of German football, only twice. Bayern Munich, once they lost against Borussia, once they beat Eintracht Frankfurt, if I'm not wrong, but that was back in the 90s. So normally it doesn't happen many times, more perhaps with the English teams. The favorites normally tend to advance. That is the pattern. But if you look at the games that already been played in the league phase, well, we only have a small sample. Only happened 4 times so far. Sorry, it's only happened twice this season. PSV, Juventus, and Monaco, Benfica. The pattern was over 2.5 goals in 3 out of 4 as for the league games. And maybe you could see something similar in Aston Villa, Brugge, and Benfica, Barcelona. But as I said, these games can be tighter because it's only the first leg of the round of 16. So something to take into account.
Yeah, certainly something we'll be keeping an eye on. Obviously, we've got sometimes, occasionally, we'll have a little bit more to play with, a little bit, some previous sample sizes of previous matches, which we don't often have in the Champions League with teams playing each other fairly infrequently. Now, I would normally throw to Sam and Daniele first for the bet, but seeing as we've got some pretty similar selections from these two today, Scott, do you want to kick us off so we're not left out of the pod discussion, because I think they're going to be taking over today?
Yeah, very much a watching brief for me and you, but I'm going to talk about, I believe it's the first kickoff as well, isn't it? Brugge versus Aston Villa. I'm going to back over 24.5 throws and under 26.5 shots. That's a 1.95. It's been fluctuating between 2.1 and 1.95 quite a lot within the last hour. So either price, but we'll take the shorter one for now. Villa matches I've seen the fewest throws in the Champions League with an average of 25.75, but that's still above what we're looking at here. And we've already seen this game. We've seen Villa go to Bruges. This bet landed there. The bet builder landed there. This is new territory for both teams, really. I know Villa obviously won the European Cup in 82, 83, long before I was born, so sorry if I've got the year wrong. But I just think there'll be a tentativeness. What Bruges managed to do to Atalanta, it shocked me. I think a lot were surprised by that. So Villa will be wary. But Bruges really need a result. They can't afford to go into the away leg having not given their all at home. So I do think that we'll see plenty of throws as a result. Villa's last Champions League away game was against Monaco. There were 29 throws in that one. And there have been 25 or more throws in their last 10 across all competitions with 29.1. Bruges Champions League matches, the throw data is also promising when you're looking at over 24.5. Their Champions League matches average 31.1 throws. The shots is an average of 23.5 in Bruges Champions League games, just 21.6 at home. And as I say, in the reverse, well, not the reverse, when they met in the league phase at this ground, there were 21 shots and 27 throws. So as far as this bet builder is concerned, very, very straightforward. And the bet builder's landed in all four of Bruges' home Champions League games in the league phase.
Yeah, looking good. Looking more specifically at the match itself, Scott, betting projections for this one give Club Bruges 0.98, expected goals 1.49 for Aston Villa. What do you think of this Villa side? Obviously down in 10th place in the Premier League last time I looked, and their top scorer in this competition this season is currently on a beach in Saudi Arabia, John Duran. So what do you think of Villa's chances? Do you think they're gonna how they're going to approach this two-legged tie? First one obviously being away from.
I think that league position is almost a little bit false. They haven't hit the heights of last season, but it's very congested. They could still salvage a European place. I'm impressed with who they've brought in. I think Asensio has been brilliant. Rashford's looked sharp. Marlon's come in. He hasn't really made an impact yet, but certainly there's a player there, isn't there? So they've brought in some good depth in attack, and I trust Emery to make the necessary adjustments here. He's already seen what Brugge are capable of firsthand this season. I think Villa will probably nick it, to be honest with you. I think they've just got the quality to edge it. It wouldn't be surprising if it was to be Rashford or someone like that to go and get a Champions League winner with United struggling in all competitions. But I kind of fancy Villa. I think they'll go through the tie, but definitely need to be wary about what Brugge are capable of. Maybe the one for punters would be Villa to win this one, and then double chance for the opposition at the weekend because of the way they've been performing after Europe. They've failed to win any of their last 7 domestic games after a European game. So interesting one.
Yeah, certainly one to keep an eye on as we go into the weekend, which we'll be discussing in our Thursday pod this week. Scott's first bet and the first bet of the show is over 24.5 throws and under 26.5 shots in Club Brugge versus Aston Villa. That's a 1.95 with a full unit on that. Now, we're in the new territory. We're treading new ground here as we've got 2 singles from 2 experts, and you've gone for the same bet. So who wants to go first?
Daniele, surely.
Go on, Daniele.
I'll go first because Inter are involved. Inter are at the Kuip in the Netherlands against Feyenoord. New managers Feyenoord with the 24th game in charge ever for Robin van Persie at the guide of Feyenoord after leaving Heerenveen. Only 9 wins, 0-0 at the weekends against neck, knee, Megan. So a new manager midway through the Champions League season, it has happened before. He has had some positive effects, namely at Chelsea, who won the 2 Champions League thanks to a new manager coming in the middle of the season, Roberto Di Matteo and Thomas Tuchel. Obviously, when we talk about Zinedine Zidane and Hansi Flick doing it with Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, perhaps it sounds a little bit less of an achievement. So there are three teams in the round of 16 with new managers. Feyenoord is one of them. Then you got Borussia Dortmund with Niko Kovac and Benfica, who changed the manager very early into the season. Roger Smith for Bruno Lage. Now only Borussia have got chance, only 1.6% chance of winning the Champions League. So that is very, very difficult. And Feyenoord, on the other hand, are the highest price in this first round of 16 because they face Inter, a team with a lot of experience. So what to expect from this game? Feyenoord, we know they are fairly strong at home. Only 1 defeat in the last 40 home games against the Italian side. 4 out of 5 in the last few seasons have been victories. But Inter Milan, as I said, Betsy give them an 81.9% chance of making it into the quarterfinals. It will be interesting because both teams have got a few injuries. Feyenoord got one of the youngest squad in the competition, average age 23 years. Inter, on the other hand, they got one of the oldest squad in the competition, and they look a little bit laggy recently. The goals, especially away from home, have dried up for Inter. The projected goal tally stands at 2.68, and I think this is logical because Inter have kept 7 clean sheets in the competition, and in 15 out of 19 games in the Champions League under Inzaghi have produced 2 goals or less. But when I look at Inter at the moment, I see a team that in just one of the last 6 games away from home in all competition has scored more than 2 goals, and that was a 4-0 win at Lecce. And also the injuries, as I mentioned, they are plagued in the wing-back position. They are without Zalewski, they're without Carlos Augusto, without Darmian, and without Di Marco, who picked up an injury at the weekend after scoring that beauty at the Maradona. Now, Di Marco, highest for expected assists for Inter in the competition, 2.0. And that could force Inzaghi to do the unthinkable, switch to a back 4, which sounds a bit like blasphemy for him, but I probably will do it, or deploy Denzel Dumfries on the left-hand side. I think Inter will be limited. I think some of the Inter star players, Lautaro, Thuram, Mkhitaryan, are tired. This is the 41st game of the season for the Italian champions. For me, it's an under 2.75 goals Asian line. I don't see Inter scoring more than 1 goal here. I don't see Inter conceding far too many goals, controlling the game better than what Milan did. Hardly a goal fest. And I think at the price that we have is a very good.
Yeah, very interesting. And Sam, sorry to spoil a conclusion here, but you are going for the same bet for this game. Have you got any different approaches, any different reasons why you're going for it?
Yeah, a few. Daniele's covered it brilliantly. So I'll give it a go, albeit without the Italian accent. So look, round of 16, if we are to believe the bookmakers and Betsy's line of thinking, the first legs here should be a lot of fun. So Betsy projects that there will be an average of 2.97 goals per game in this round of fixtures, and Bet365 favours over 2.5 goals in 6 of the 8 fixtures. So they're expecting goals across the board. And Betsy only has 1 of the 8 games predicted for under 2.5 goals. That's Club Brugge and Villa. That's at a 2.4 expected projected goals. So personally, I'm not sure if I'm buying into these lofty goal expectations in each game in the first leg. Like, this is, after all, a hugely important pressurized fixture. Lots of pressure. No one wants to make a mistake. If we look back to last season in 2023-24, BTTS won in 5 of the 8 first round fixtures. 14 goals come across those 8 games, so a 1.75 goals per 90 average. The year before that, 2022-23, 7 of 8 matches went under 2.5 goals in the first leg of the round of 16. 6 out of 8 were both teams to score no. The one big outlier there was Real Madrid 5, Liverpool 2 at Anfield. So that kind of skewed the goals per 90 figures. And in the season before that, 2021-22, 6 out of 8 went under 2.5 and 4 out of 8 ticked off BTTS no. So now the bookmakers and Betsy are both in agreement that we're going to see loads and loads of goals, and I'm just not sure I'm buying it. So I wanted to come on to this podcast and I wanted to pick out one unders goals play. Like Daniele's touch on, this just stood out like a sore thumb, really. So I've landed on the Asian goal line under 2.75. Means that if we do see 3 goals, we'll leave the game with half a unit loss, which I'm fine with. And if we see 4 goals, obviously me and Daniele have got it completely wrong, and that's fair enough as well. So looking at Inter, they've conceded just 1 goal in their 8 Champions League fixtures this season. I'm not sure if Daniele even said that, but that's incredible in itself. And they've scored 11 in 8, just over a goal per 90 on average. So yeah, I was shocked. This was one of the matches that was priced over the 2.5 goal line. And if you look at Inter under Inzaghi over the last few seasons in the Champions League, in the round of 16, first legs, 1-0 versus Atleti, 1-0 versus Porto, lost 2-0 versus Liverpool. And they were all at home, interestingly. So it's only natural to imagine that Inter round of 16 at home, away from home, it's probably going to be a little bit more cautious, and they're going to lean on being robust defensively and take a largely positive result back to the San Siro. So yeah, under 2.75 at a good price.
I think they play defensively with the ball. I think what Inter can do better at the moment. Try to take the sting out of the game. Bearing in mind that Feyenoord has been given handed a very good advantage by the Dutch FA. There is no game for Feyenoord the weekend after this one. So the next game is the return match. It's a very young team, and it would be criminal for them to get the tie out of hand before traveling to the San Siro. Feyenoord doesn't travel particularly well. They conceded 6-0 because of the lack of experience. And when they played AC Milan, they were under the cosh for at least 55 minutes. Then Teo Hernandez sending off changes the game. They score with the only shot on target they had that match. And I think, yes, they will try to get to San Siro with a respectable scoreline, potentially just maybe losing by 1 goal or keeping the tie draw. So yeah, I would be really surprised if they really go gung-ho. I know they can impose a high rhythm at the Koip, and yes, they are quite intimidating there, but they're facing, as I said, probably one of the most experienced teams in the Champions League.
I don't like all this agreement, so I'm gonna have to bring some devil's advocate into it. I do think the bet will land, but Feyenoord league phase games averaging 4.88 goals every single one.
How many points would Inter win the Eredivisie by? 52? 55?
Yeah.
I mean, there is no comparison. Sorry, Scott. There is absolutely no comparison. Milan would win the Eredivisie.
No. This in the Champions
Milan,
League, in the league
in that
phase.
awful kit there last night.
This is for the league phase of the Champions League. The league phase of the Champions
the
League.
league phase.
Yeah.
But who do they play? Who did they play? Slovan Bratislava, no?
Bayern Munich.
Munich, yeah.
Bayern Leverkusen. Man City.
Away from home, though. Away from home.
Benfica, they beat them 3-1. Not bad.
I'm not sure. Sorry. No disrespect. I heard the Eredivisie there and they just jumped in. You are right. But in the league, to counter your argument, in the league phase, it was when the goal difference mattered a lot. Hence, they went for it. And, we all had a lot of discussion about why they should continue to keep scoring. In these ones, is the aggregate. So after all,
I do completely agree. I just thought I'd throw something on the fire as soon as a podcast.
Just to upset our Dutch colleagues that will hear this podcast.
No, it's fine. I'm going to throw some more stuff on the fire. The extra goals, the higher goal total. They obviously had that 3-3 draw with Manchester City. They lost 6-1 away at Feyenoord. And just to bring in goal totals from recent seasons, obviously we saw the format change back in 21-22, or was it 2021, when the wiggle rule was scrapped. Almost season on season, there was an immediate downturn in first leg goals in these knockout matches. And it goes back to what Daniele was saying. League stage this season, teams needed goals and needed that goal difference to get higher up in the table. Now, maybe it's about sort of keeping it tight, maybe bringing it to the second leg, as long as that favours the team that's going to be taking control of the match. The standout high-scoring first legs that we've seen in recent seasons have been when teams have sensed an opportunity to really kill the tie in the first leg. And for this match, the only counter argument that I've got for both Sam and Daniele, up to you, takes it, but would Feyenoord see this as the opportunity to maybe kill the tie, to maybe get their best chance of getting progressing is to get something from this match? And as you said, Daniele, they've been handed a lifeline by the Dutch FA. They're off.
What do you mean by killing the tie? What do you mean by killing the tie? 4-0. 3-0, the tie is open. For me, Inter takes a 3-0 deficit to San Siro, they can overturn it. 4-0, maybe there isn't much of a chance. There is no away goals. So I think, I don't know. Yes, in a way, it's a team that I think for Feyenoord, this is a free hit. Okay, they've already done the miracle knocking out Milan. So, yeah, maybe they go for it. But taking a lead to San Siro for them would be massive. So I don't think they really will go for it to kill the tie. But again, we have to debate what killing the tie means.
And just to jump in quickly, I suppose it's fairly obvious, but the landscape of the round of 16, I think both teams would be thrilled to go back to San Siro with a 0-0 draw, 1-1 draw, 1-0 either way. I think both sides would be pretty content with that. So I think we've got to bear that in mind as well when we're looking at unders. I think most of the under 2.5 scorelines would be palatable for either coach. So that's something to consider as well.
Yeah, certainly something to think about. They have, they've done well this season, Feyenoord in the Champions League. They've scored in pretty much every game they've played. I think bar the match day one game against Bayer Leverkusen, they've scored in every match. But obviously, tougher test against this Inter Milan defence.
Well, that's true. I haven't got the data in front of me, Dan, but Eredivisie clubs in the round of 16 quarter-final, I don't think they usually do too well. So they've been great up to this point, performed brilliantly, but now they're against Inter Milan in the round of 16. So, yeah, it's a bit of a step up.
So, for the first time, I think, in a singles for a pod, we've got the same bet from two of our punters, under 2.75 goals in the Asian goal line in Feyenoord versus Inter Milan, 1.92. One single unit from Daniele, one single unit from Sam. Moving on, Scott, do you want to take us through what is probably the biggest tie on paper, which is Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid?
Yeah, this is one I'm certainly looking forward to, and I'm going on a trend that I've been backing quite a lot this season, and the opposition makes it even better. And as I've gone through the data, I can't wait for this. I can't wait for this fixture. So I'm backing a goal after 74.59 in the game. So basically in the last 15 minutes plus injury time on Bet365 is priced at 1.83. They adjust the minutes and always keep it at 1.83. So that may move as we get closer to kickoff. But effectively we're backing a late goal. And it's something I've done pretty well on this season in Atletico Madrid games, just because they've got so many attacking options. Soloff and Alvarez were brought in the summer. Neither has really pinned down the starting place. That's probably harsh on Alvarez, but he's struggling to fit them both in with Griezmann in the team. That's the best way to say it. But both are showing great tendency to score off the bench. Alvarez scored off the bench at the weekend. Soloff scored a 94th minute equaliser at the Camp Nou last week. And I think that 4-4 draw there at the Camp Nou, I don't think we'll see 8 goals. But I think a late rally from Atleti is probably what I'm expecting here. There were 5 goals in the 76th minute and beyond in the last 5 head-to-heads between Real and Atleti. 8 goals in 8 matches beyond this period in Atleti's 8 Champions League games so far, and it's landed in 7 of those. The exception was Atleti's game against Slovan. Real matches in the Champions League have also seen plenty of goals at this stage. So it's an average of 1.3 in the 76th minute and beyond. That's 0.9 for Real and 0.4 for the opposition. The last Champions League meeting at this ground was in 2017, and Ronaldo actually completed his hat-trick in the 86th minute, so that would have landed. It's actually landed in Atleti's last 3 Champions League games at the Bernabeu. But so while Real are outscoring Atleti in the Champions League, in the latter stage of the Champions League, in the league, it's all about Atleti. They're averaging 0.69 goals in the last 50 minutes plus stoppage time again. It's all down to those 2 players, Soloff, Alvarez, just being able to create something off the bench or give them a target. And I really like what Simeone's done with their attack. He's been flexible and he's really trying to make it work. And I do fancy Atletico Madrid's chances of maybe causing an upset in La Liga. Real's sort of hoodoo in the Champions League does make them the deserved favourites here, and I get that. but I think Atletico will certainly contribute to what's going to be an entertaining game here. So to add to that, Atleti haven't actually lost any of their last 8 matches against Real Madrid in normal time. I think that's 7 draws and 1 win for Atleti. Real have eliminated them in extra time on 3 occasions there. And I think that's what this tie might come down to. It might come down to an extra time in the second leg. But the point being, Atleti never say die. 2 late goals at the Camp Nou last week to salvage a 4-4 draw in the Copa del Rey. Let's see some more of that here, and I think we will. I think Real are capable, and Atleti are certainly capable of scoring some late goals.
Yeah, we're seeing quite a stark contrast between bookmaker expectations and Betsy expectations for this match. I think it's some of the biggest margins I can remember seeing, actually, for a game of this size. Betsy obviously ignores the context of what the matchup could be, and bookmakers obviously don't. So bookmaker have the goal line, the Asian goal line at 2.5 with 0.5 handicap in favor of Real Madrid. So minus 0.5 for Madrid, plus 0.5 for Atletico. Now, Betsy's gone the other way. Ignoring the context, Betsy's projecting 2.53 goals for Real Madrid alone and 1.14 for Atletico, total of 3.67. And Madrid, as a result, Madrid minus 0.5 in this match on the Asian handicap line is the bet of the week, or the bet of the match day for Betsy. So, Scott, are you concerned that we'll see a game that's a little bit closer to the bookmakers' expectations, which is one that maybe is a little bit tighter, maybe fewer goals? Because as these sides play, if these sides played with no stakes on the line, it's probably a lot closer to what Betsy is expecting. We would see probably a high-scoring game, and as a result, a much higher chance of some goals going in late in the match.
Yeah, a high-scoring game would be nice. Obviously, it does increase like the 4-4 draw with Barcelona. But that's ideal when you see 2 teams going at it. But if you had to press for a scoreline here, I'm probably going to go 1-1. And I just think one of those goals comes late on. I wouldn't be surprised to see a cagey start if we do see the early goal, particularly from Real. I think Atleti will come into it in that last stage. But if Atleti scored the early goal, we might be looking at a 2-2 3 whatever. But it's just the nature of Atletico Madrid are keeping things tight and just willing to go at it late on. And Real, they scored the 2 late goals against City in the first leg. Real never say die in this competition. If Real Madrid were 2-1 down, for example, going into the last 15 minutes, a 3-2 win wouldn't surprise you, would it? So it's just that type of game. With these 2 teams, they look like they can get a result at any stage, and I think it'll really come into its own in that last sort of 15 minutes plus injury time.
Yeah, 17 goals for Atletico Madrid in La Liga between the 76th and 90th minute. Madrid have conceded 8 times in that period as well, so it wouldn't be a surprise if Atletico can add another one. Scott's second single tip is a goal after 74.59 in Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid. That's a 1.83 on Bet365. Now, from the all-Spanish affair to the all-German affair. And Sam, do you want to kick us off with your bet for Bayern Munich versus Bayer Leverkusen?
Yes, so I'm going for Bayer Leverkusen to qualify at 2.37. This opened at around 2.75, so it's come in a little bit. Bayern Munich have failed to beat Bayer Leverkusen in their last 6 head-to-heads, and over that period, they've scored just an average of 0.67 goals per 90 and conceded 1.50. But despite that, Bayern are 1.53 favourites to progress to the quarterfinals, and the last 6 head-to-heads match up along the same timeline as when Xabi Alonso took the reins as Bayer Leverkusen manager, which was, uncoincidentally, 6 head-to-heads ago. So he's unbeaten in those 6 meetings, winning 3 and drawing 3 against Bayern Munich. The home side here in the first leg comes into the round of 16 with a 2.53 XG per 90 total in the Champions League, which sounds great and ranks as best in class in the Champions League. So that will probably skew the bookmakers' data models and prices and might pull the wool over a few eyes, because that doesn't really portray Bayern's European journey up to this point. After all, they finished 12th outside of the top 8, where Leverkusen were sitting pretty in 6th. And in the respective dugouts, I'm personally having Xabi Alonso over Vincent Kompany all day. I trust Alonso at this level. His side are reigning Bundesliga champions. I probably won't do that again this season, but they got to the Europa League final last season against Atalanta. And if you just look at the last game in the Champions League, Bayern struggled to edge past Celtic on home soil in the previous round. they couldn't muster a top 8 finish. That was too much of an ask for this Bayern side. They are definitely not at their convincing, domineering best. They're far from it. So for me, Dan, there's enough in these prices to get excited about, I think. The gap between the two sides isn't that big. It's not 1.57 to 2.37 big. I'm not having that. This version of Bayern Munich definitely aren't that much better than Bayer Leverkusen's. If you're backing Bayern at 1.57 to get through to the next round, then I'm not really, I don't know, something's gone wrong there. Or either that or I'm completely wrong here and I'm barking up the wrong tree. But with the second leg in Leverkusen as well, the disqualified prices as they are, 1.57 to 237. Yeah, I have them much closer together. So I've ended on the away team here in the first leg to progress from the tie as a whole.
Yeah, very interesting one. One of those matchups that we see. I think they've played each other 4 times in 13 months. Daniele, what are your thoughts on this match?
Only 23 days ago, they played each other, and Leverkusen were the dominant side, as we mentioned before. They did the pressing game better than Bayern does their own game. They were on Bayern's face. They were pressing high with Teja, with the 2 wing backs, Frimpong and Grimaldo. They suffocated them, and there's so many chances. And Bayern Munich were just having to launch long balls. They didn't have a single shot on target in the first half, which never happened in the Bundesliga since Opta collects those data. Bayern Leverkusen should have won the game, but the gaps is still 8 points at the top of the table for Bayern Munich. So that seems they're very likely to win the league. But Bayern Leverkusen have already beaten them in Munich, Bayern this season, 1-0 in the DFB Pokal, and everything the Sam says, I back it up. I wonder why the price for Bayern Munich is so low. Perhaps because if you look at the Bundesliga expected points, Bayern should be actually 10 points ahead of Bayern Leverkusen. So maybe Leverkusen have had a few lucky wins. But Leverkusen have only lost 3 games in all competitions since last season. Europa League final, that defeat against Atletico Madrid, and another Bundesliga match. So they are basically undefeated against German teams for almost 2 seasons. And this has to be taken into account, really, when you look at this game. I think Bayern have got a lot of cracks in the system, the way they play, very high, very intense. Company asks his centre-backs, Kim and Upamecano, or Kim and Dyer, to take a lot of risk. Basically, he leaves it up to them to defend one-on-one, but they can get exposed. And if they do miss a tackle or they do miss an intervention, Upamecano doesn't miss many of those, but Kim and Dyer do. Then basically the opposition have got a clean run on goal. Celtic were exceptional in that game against Bayern Munich. They played with a front 3. They decided to go for the pace of Maeda, which reminds me a bit of Teja, to really activate the press, and they robbed the ball in dangerous position, could have scored, should have scored in the first half with McGregor, with Maeda, and in the second half they took the lead convincingly. It wasn't a great display from Bayern Munich. They celebrated like a win. It was a lucky goal from Alphonso Davies from a rebound. So I think this Bayern Munich, they're going to get found out by Leverkusen, who look by far the most organized team. Look, I think Bayern Munich being 1.5 favorites to progress, it's a wrong line. They've averaged just 0.67 goals per game and conceded 1.50 in the last 6 games against Bayer Leverkusen. I believe that backing Leverkusen on this one with the Asian handicap of plus 0.75 or 185 is a smart choice. If they lose, they will only lose by 1 goal difference, which means you will only lose half a stake. I don't think they're going to lose at all. Probably a draw or a victory for Xabi Alonso, which means they might face Inter in the quarterfinals. So 185 for Bayer Leverkusen Asian handicap plus 0.75.
Yeah, I want to bring in the Alonso factor here. Somebody touched upon, Sam, but last time Bayern Munich beat Bayer Leverkusen was back in September 2022, which feels like a very long time ago. A few days later, they lost 2-0 to Porto, and Xabi Alonso arrived at the club the day after that. He's never lost to Bayern Munich in 90 minutes. Do you think that's the big difference maker here, is the 2 men in the dugout?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, he's been brilliant since he's come into Bayer Leverkusen, and you'd have to think he's probably on his way to bigger and better things in Europe, maybe next season, maybe the season after. And just looking at the prices overall, Dan, taking it back to like a betting point of view, I just wonder like how heavily the market we see in front of us is influenced by big name bias, like historical trends in this competition. And that underlying data for Bayern Munich that I mentioned earlier in the competition this season. But I think you've got to bear in mind that I think, didn't they win like 9-2 or something in the league phase as well, which, bumps that right up too. And just everything here suggests that the prices are wrong, and everything suggests getting Leverkusen on side. I did look at that Asian handicap, but my thinking was that if that is to win, then I would expect Bayer Leverkusen to take that positive result back home and then get the job done. So obviously we're getting a little bit bigger of a price for the to qualify market. I wouldn't put anyone off that bet that Daniele put up either. But yeah, how the price is, it has to be Leverkusen for me.
Bayern have got the longest unbeaten streak, current longest unbeaten streak at home in the Champions League is 21 games, which reads well. But as we said, the goal from Alphonso Davies was lucky, so it was about to be broken. Last time they lost was out to PSG in 2021. But how many of those games were actually knockout ties? And how many of those games were against minnows or teams that they should have been beaten? So again, I think I agree with Sam. He's a big name biased. Bookmakers look at it and say, who's the biggest club in this case? Same nation derbies, as we mentioned at the beginning of the pod, often gets won by the biggest club. Yes, on paper, Bayern Munich are the biggest club. If you look at the performances, and I think the way Bayern Munich are still in transition, I think the Champions League for them this season is one step too far. They'll win the Bundesliga, no doubt about it. But I think they're going to go out at this stage.
That performance against Leverkusen the other week, as you say, where Bayern had an XG of 0.05, they didn't have a sniff. It was absolutely ridiculous. I haven't seen anything like that.
It was crazy. Like, they didn't have a shot since until Harry Kane shot. I think it was like the 71st minute, and that was the first time since shot data was recorded that Bayern failed to have a shot in the first half of a Bundesliga game, let alone the first hour. And they left Leverkusen with 2 shots and obviously a point. So I mean, it was job done from their perspective, I suppose. But it was all Leverkusen. Yeah, they should have battered them. Really, really unlucky.
It reminded me of, remember last season when City went to Villa Park and Villa just completely shut them down. It was a lot like that. And I think Leverkusen might have their number.
Yeah, coming back to that home record you touched upon, Daniele, lengthy unbeaten streak at home for Bayern. Looking at the knockout matches that they played, so played Real Madrid, drew 2-2, suffocated Arsenal last season, beat Lazio. City, PSG the season before, but they've been playing games against Villarreal. They've had knockout games against Salzburg, which they won convincingly. More recently, we're not really sure what to expect from Bayern Munich. They squeaked past PSG, they squeaked past Benfica this season, and then, as Sam mentioned, that 9-2 win over Dinamo Zagreb. They've been slightly inconsistent, haven't they? So, are you expecting Bayern to want to kill the tie here ahead of the
I think that would probably the best chance. In this case, yes, but again, killing the tie means at least a 3-goal advantage, because I think even a 2-goal advantage, Bayer Leverkusen can bring it back. No, Bayern, totally with you. I think it's a Bayern in transition. It's a Bayern that changed the way they play. They were much more risk-averse last season under Thomas Tuchel. This year, I don't think they quite got the personnel or quite got the tactics right. It's all about the one-to-one duels. Up front, the biggest chance to upset Bayer Leverkusen is to try to isolate Olise on the left-hand side flank and San on the right-hand side flank with switches of play. At the back, it's all about the individual duels, really. I don't think... if Leverkusen plays with a big centre-forward, with Boniface or Schick, they might play it into Bayern's hands. They give them a point of reference, someone that Upamecano can grab hold to. But if they play with Teja, which is much more mobile, interchanging position with Beerts and allowing the runs from deep, I think that becomes much more difficult for them to control. And it's the pressing game, really. This is the pressing game of Alonso, which they are more drilled into it. I don't know. I see frailties in this Bayern Munich, but let's wait. It's probably the most exciting tie of the round of 16.
Surely he'll go for Teja and Wirtz based on the most recent head-to-head, which he started both. It's up to company to sort of respond here, isn't it? And then Xabi Alonso can adjust accordingly. But you'd imagine he's going to go for same again. I think they created 5 big chances to Bayern 0. They really should have won that game.
And it's a big game for Kane as well, because he will have to do a lot of hard work here. He will have to do a lot of press, and he's not quite there yet. I watched him against Celtic, both legs. When Celtic were able to run in midfield, he was often in the space left in behind Kane. He's not quite his game. So, yeah, I mean, fantastic goal scorer. And when he came off the pitch in the second leg, Bayern, they had problems. But yeah, I think Bayern they're going to be without the ball for most of the time here.
He's without a goal in 4 as well, Nick Kane. So it's there is pressure on him. I suppose he was signed to take them to the next level in this competition, not really to win the league. I know the league didn't happen last year. Not really Bayern's fault when someone goes unbeaten, but there's a lot of narratives about this one. It's good.
Yeah, going to be a very interesting tie. Kane scored 4 in the knockouts of Bayern last season, but yeah, really didn't need him to get on the score sheet here. The only problem is going to be deciding which match to watch. I think on Wednesday is 3 really good games all at the same time. Right. If you are following the tips, then Bayern versus Bayer Leverkusen is going to be the match to follow. Sam has gone for Leverkusen to qualify from the tie. That's a 2.37 with a full unit on it. Daniele has gone for Bayer Leverkusen plus 0.75 in the Asian handicap market. That's a 1.85 with a full unit on that. Over to the pod treble. And Scott, do you want to kick us off with your selection?
Yeah, worth noting. So the last pod treble hasn't been settled yet. So I'm having my sleepless nights ahead of the Nottingham Forest versus Ipswich game. But let's hope we're all Forest today, aren't we? So fingers crossed. But this week I'm going to go for Dortmund to win and under 1.5 goals for the opposition in Dortmund versus Lille. Quite impressed with what I've seen from Dortmund since Kovac has come in. Mixed bag of results, 3 wins in 6, but one of those where they failed to win was a dead rubber against Sporting. 0-0 draw at home. They'd already secured a 3-0 away win. They should have won the home game. Their XG. They've won the XG battle in 5 of their 6 games under Kovac with an average of 2.34 versus 0.81, so quite comfortable. I think they've really found a little bit of confidence in the last few weeks. St. Pauli away was sort of a tricky one. They haven't been a bad side, but then the last home game was really, really encouraging. A 6-0 win over Union Berlin with an XG of 4.77. Lille shocked, well, everybody by finishing 7th in the league phase, securing their way to the round of 16 without a need for the playoff. But their away form is still quite poor. They've lost the XG battle in 3 of their 4 Champions League away games. And they've only got 2 away wins in their last 9 across all competitions. That's 3 losses in the last 4 as well. They face a Dortmund side that can make it into the top 4. I think they're about 5 points off, but they're down to 10th in the Bundesliga. So a run in the Champions League is really the best way to restore confidence. Obviously, they made the final in this competition last season. They've got Sergio Guirassy up front, who is the top scorer with 10 goals in 10 games. And I see Dortmund recording a fairly routine victory here. And the way they've steadied up the defence recently under Kovac, with the underlying numbers being so promising and the fact they've got 2 clean sheets in a row, I think under 1.5 goals for Lille is pretty safe here. That's a nice way to bump that price up to somewhere that's more acceptable than I normally go for. If Dortmund win 3-2, I'm going to have to eat my own words.
Looks good. Daniele, over to you for your selection for the pod treble.
Another one of those deja vu ties, Groundhog Day. So it's Club Brugge against Aston Villa. I think they're gonna follow the same script as in the league phase. Club Brugge only 1.20 xG per game in the competition, which is the lowest among the round of 16 teams. But they've Atalanted Atalanta because the rhythm they imposed to that game, those 2 games, was extraordinary. However, when they met in November, Club Brugge had an XG of 138 to Aston Villa 196, but if you remember the goal, it was Tyrone Mings handling the ball in the box after the goal kick. So if you take away the penalty, which has got an XG of 0.77, then it's only 0.61 XG for Club Brugge, who had a few goalless games in a home. Look, I think since the Champions League restarted for Club Brugge, their form has dipped a lot in Belgium. That means how much they really care about it. But it's a team that has got pedigree in Europe. Last season, they were semi-finalists of the Conference League. Nicky Heinem's got them really well drilled. A young side with a few 20, 90-year-old players. So yeah, so it will be hard, I think, for Villa to score a lot of goals. Away from home, Villa only managed to score more than one goal in one of the last 7 games. That was the 2-2 draws at Arsenal. For me, this one is another low-scoring game, as Betsy projects. So let's go for under 2.75 goals, Asian line, 162.
Yeah, looks good. And Sam, over to you.
Real Madrid minus 0.5 Asian handicap at 1.92. This is going to be a really tough tie, of course. Madrid derby, round of 16. But this is Real Madrid at the Bernabeu in the knockout stages of the Champions League. This is Betsy's best bet of the week. We mentioned it earlier. Her best bet of the whole slate is for Real Madrid to lock in a win here, even though the last 5 head-to-heads have been draws between the two Madrid sides. Real Madrid have reached this stage of the tournament for the 21st consecutive season, which is absolutely bonkers. They've only failed to progress from the round of 16 twice in the past 15 years, and they've made it to the semi-finals and beyond in 12 of the last 14 editions of the Champions League, and they've won the trophy on 6 occasions in that time frame. What I like about backing these main markets in 2-legged European ties is that a 1-goal margin defeat for Atletico Madrid, something that would pay us full profits, is a decent result at the Bernabeu. And I think Diego Simeone would be happy enough with that. He wouldn't be bouncing off the walls, but he would definitely be content. And that's the beauty of 2 legs and taking positions on these markets. Teams will often settle for a negative result in the final stages if the feeling is that it's a salvageable result and they can take it back home. So it was mentioned earlier, and it should be noted that Real Madrid haven't beaten Atleti in regulation time since September 2022, a run of 8 matches. Real have won 3 cup meetings in that period during extra time. So it's going to be really tough. Yes, I think Simeone's going to try and frustrate Real, as you would imagine. But for me, I just think they'll have a bit too much. Bellingham is suspended. He won't be here for this match, but still, I think they've got plenty in forward areas to find a goal, to hold on to it, and yeah, to get the win over the line in this one.
Yeah, they can just bring in someone else from that extraordinary squad, can't they? If you put all 3 of those bets together into a treble, you'll get odds of 5.58, which we will be tracking for a quarter of a unit. So, very quickly, we've talked about 5 of the 8 matches here. Now, it just very briefly in a couple of words, if anybody is eyeing up something, I'm going to shout out a game. If anybody's eyeing up a bet or eyeing up a market they're keeping an eye on, then yeah, just jump in. But on Tuesday night, we've also got PSV versus Arsenal. Anybody looking at anything for that?
There's goals again.
Unders, yeah, 2.75.
Yeah, I like that. Knowing both teams to score as well, 1.95. Looks pretty good. Benfica Barca? Got to be overs.
Yeah, over 8.5. Same
over
as
8.5, yeah.
Same as the first time, 40-1.
And finally,
Not
PSG.
for me. For me, it's an under. For me, it's an under. For me, it's an under. The line is 3.25. I'll go under.
Yeah, the line is too high considering it's a
The line
first
is
leg.
too high. Yeah.
Is anybody offering offsides? Anybody got offside markets for it? Because Benfica will have at least 7 offsides in that game.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, with Barcelona. Yeah.
Don't think so. Yeah. Finally, PSG versus Liverpool.
It's a really tough one to predict, I think.
I'm not surprised everybody decided to stay away from that game for their picks.
So that could go anywhere in terms of result and goal scored. I think Liverpool will progress. Probably not the most outlandish prediction. I think they'll progress, but PSG are playing superbly at the minute. So it's a really tricky tie for Arne Slot and Liverpool.
What about Alexis McAllister to be booked? That's my favourite bet of the game.
Not official picks, but things to keep an eye on. Let's go through the singles, recap all the bets. Sam, do you want to kick us off with your 2 singles?
Yes, I'm going for under 2.75 Asian goals at 1.92 in Feyenoord versus Inter Milan. By Leverkusen to qualify against Bayern Munich at 2.37, and also a unit on the pod treble pick of Real Madrid minus 0.5 Asian handicap at 1.92.
Good stuff. And Scott?
Club Brugge versus Aston Villa over 24.5 throws and under 26.5 shots at 1.95. And Real versus Atleti, a goal after the 75th minute, basically. 1.83, bet 365, 1 unit on both.
Stuff. And Daniele?
My first tip is the same as Sam for Feyenoord Inter under 2.75 goals. My second one is Bayern Leverkusen Asian handicap plus 0.75 against Bayern Munich at 1.85.
Stuff. And Pod Treble, as Sam said, he's gone for Real Madrid minus 0.5 in the Asian handicap market versus the Atletico Madrid, so 1.92. Scott has gone for Dortmund to win and under 1.5 goals for Lille when they face each other. That's a 1.80. Daniele has gone for under 2.75 goals in the Asian line at Club Brugge versus Aston Villa, so 1.62. All those together, you'll get odds of 5.58, which we will be backing for a quarter of a unit.
For back-to-back treble winners.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll
see. We'll see. We'll see. If you are going to be using any of the bets from today's show, then please gamble responsibly. Only bet where you can afford to lose. Thank you very much to Sam Ingram.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott Thornton.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Daniele Fiscella.
Thank you.